So take your fully erect tube. Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. I'm Jason, and it is beautiful outside, albeit a bit of an oven right now here in the Phoenix region. We're going on 32 days. Gotta get my fingers figured out. Over 110 degrees, which means for our family, being summertime, we're gonna try to get out of here for a little bit. It's road trip season.
It's so damn hot.
And for me, I like to do a pre-flight checklist on my vehicles before I get out on the open road. This specific trip is gonna be around the 14-day range, and we're gonna go about 3,500 to 4,000 miles, give or take. We're not really sure, because once we get up and on the road, we're gonna go hit different destinations and play around. So what we're gonna do today is we're going to go over the truck, and we're gonna take a look at everything that I like to look at beforehand. If there's something that I don't do that you think I should, drop it in the comments, let me know, let everybody else know, so that they can make sure they're running safe on the road. And I'll show you the crazy amount of stuff I like to bring. So first things first, I like to look at the tires. I work my way from the bottom up, and then when I'm all done, make sure there are no leaks or anything underneath, then I'll check fluids and move on from there. But really what you need to be looking at is I want to get all the way around the tire, and I'm just looking for usually a nail, a screw, a staple, a piece of steel, a screwdriver, a pair of pliers. I've seen lots of whack stuff in tires working in the dealership network, but in reality, the tire pressure was good. I'm going to set the tire pressure for my road trip pressures. I usually run them a little bit softer depending on what my goal is in the road trip. If I'm trying to hypermile, I'll increase the pressures a little bit so that I have less rolling resistance, but when I just want to be comfortable, I drop them down. I'll check all the tires, make sure that I don't have anything funny going on with them that might indicate a suspension problem, or make sure that, again, I don't have something in there that's going to pop loose while we're driving and cause a low pressure or any type of a hazard that, losing air in your tire might cause in the middle of nowhere. So let's pretend you didn't check your tires, you didn't find the nail that was in there, and you got off on your road trip and it went flat.
Oh crap, we have a flat.
Hopefully you checked your spare tire. Now, one of the common things that I see is spare tires are flat, or they're so dry rotted that you can't use them. One of the main reasons they're flat is when you look at this, the fill valve is on the top, pressed up against the underbody of the truck, which means you can't get to it without dropping the spare tire, and that's inconvenient as heck. So a lot of people don't get to it. Mine still has 64 PSI in it, which means it's good from the last time I checked it. But I'm gonna put just a little extra in here. My rear tires run at 80. Not when I'm on a road trip, unless I'm towing. So, drop your spare tire, spend the extra 5 minutes, and fill that bad boy up. So this next check isn't going to apply to anybody that doesn't have a Ford product. What I've seen online is that the F-150, 250, 350, 450, some of the Expeditions and potentially the Explorers have this same problem, and this was mostly in the earlier 17 plus models. And that's that all of these harnesses and connectors back here get contaminated with road spray. Not necessarily all of them, but one or two might, causing all sorts of weird electrical issues. Truck has 38,000 miles and I hadn't checked it yet. I've already made it through all the connectors on this side, but I'm going to continue pulling through here, double checking that none of the connectors are full of corrosion, throwing some dielectric grease in there, and making sure everybody is sealed up nice and tight. So while we're poking around out back, I've already checked all my connectors. Everything looked good. I like to take a double check on my airbag mounts because these are known to have some issues. And then following up with that, I haven't done the recall yet on my truck for the rear axle, so I'm always really cognizant of the perches to my spring mounts to make sure that I don't see any binding or any cracks or anything of that nature. At some point, I'll take it in for that, but at this time in my life, I don't feel like leaving my truck for weeks or months for them to dink around with it. Continuing on, I double checked that I actually have some brake pads. The The last thing that you want is to get 1,000 or 2,000 miles into a road trip, or a week or a couple days or any number of days, and then start hearing grinding from one of your wheels because you were at the end of your brake pads. In my case, I've got a ton of brake pad left in the front and the back, so I know we'll be safe. Next up, we continue rolling forward underneath the truck here. I'm just double checking that everything looks like it should. Now, if you don't know, you don't know. So take some time and familiarize yourself with your vehicle. I'm looking at the ends of bolts, looking for movement. I'm checking again at the front of the brakes. I'm looking at my lines, making sure I don't see any binds or pinches, any type of leaks, or anything that might be a surprise while on the road. Look at your shocks, look at your stabilizers, look for just about anything you can get your eyes on. This really doesn't take very long once you've done it a half dozen times. Like I said, I do this every time I'm going to take the truck on a long trip, really more than a couple 100 miles, and I'll do this just in case. I double check even the parts that I've added, like my little custom front tube bumper there. So now that we're done checking everything out underneath, it's time to go under the hood. And these diesels have a couple of issues that everybody should be aware of. We'll work our way front to back. One of the first things that you'll find if you get out onto the forums or the Facebook groups and whatnot is people asking about this cold side charge pipe. The factory one is pretty much just like a radiator hose, this rubber top, and they like to split right here at the top. What I've done is I've upgraded mine to an S&B with silicone couplers so that I'm not going to have any problem with this aluminum coupler. Now, for all you guys running full piping kits, you already know that your problem is solved. Again, emissions controlled area, I'm not running a full piping kit. When S&B comes out with a hot side pipe, I'll go ahead and replace this one back here because this rubber coupler here does tend to have some issues as well, but that's really, really limited. So not a big concern by any means. But double check your power steering reservoir, double check your heat exchanger reservoir. I'm running an S&B intake system, so I can peek through the glass and I can see that my filter is clean. I do clean it at every oil change. Climb on up, and if you have one of these fancy little steps on the front, it makes it a lot easier to get up in the engine bay. Next, we're going to move our way back. We're going to double check our oil. The dipstick is 6 miles long.
That is really long.
In my case, it is good. I am rolling up on my next oil change as soon as we get back. In the back here, we have our engine-mounted fuel filter. Now, the factory fuel filter housing is all plastic. And again, if you get out there into the interwebs, you're going to find a lot of people talking about them rupturing, breaking, cracking, leaking, and causing engine fires.
On fire!
I really wanted an easy, serviceable way of avoiding that, so I went with the HSM kit here with the billet top and then a screw-on filter on the bottom. I also have the HSM kit underneath with the screw-on water filter or water fuel separator. Check your radiator, take a look at your brake fluid, make sure everything is looking good, no extra leaks, no extra anything whack underneath. Double check your washer fluid and make sure your battery terminals are good, tight, and corrosion free. If you're curious why my batteries look so good, you can take a look at the link up here when I changed these batteries from the crusty factory Ford batteries that like to corrode everything in the engine bay in their general vicinity to these AGM batteries. So I'm only 6'1", but these trucks are inevitably very tall. It helps to have something you can stand on the front here. One of the things that I did was I built this little tube bumper to go along the bottom, and you can take a look at that video up over here. Now, being that I live in Phoenix, I've used my wipers twice. Might be exaggerating a little. Monsoon season was pretty rough last year, but it's been like a millennia since we had rain or measurable rain here. But getting on the road and going to new environments, it's worthwhile double checking that your wipers are still in decent shape. I like to actually take and clean the rubber edge and get a look at it up close to make sure that it's not time to replace these. Last thing you want is to get stuck in some unknown area or a new area to you with crap weather and you can't see through your windshield.
I can't see.
Alternatively, I also like to add Rain-X to the windshield just to make sure. I'm one of those weirdos driving down the freeway and my wipers don't run because everything just shoots right off of it. Long story short, make sure that all of the things that you're trying to look through, your glass, your headlights, all of that, they're in good working order and they work and shine down the road. That they're in good working order. Leave it at that. So one of our last fluids to check is the DEF. And because this is a diesel, we have to carry this extra pisswasser with us. So always make sure you're filling the DEF port. Don't accidentally put DEF in your diesel or you're going to be looking at injectors, a pump, a tank flush, all sorts of nonsense to the tune of about $10,000 to $15,000. So take your fully erect tube, make sure it's going in the DEF port. Now that is unless you're going to a truck stop and you're using one of their fills. That's what I like to do when I am running a trailer behind me, but I also keep a bottle at home and I'll be bringing one with me just in case so that I don't get stuck with that 50-mile warning at some point during this trip. So one of the only electronic checks that I do is I don't have a scan tool, but I do have ForeScan, which operates as a scan tool. So I like to hook up to ForeScan a few weeks in advance, which I already did on my truck, and just double check that I don't have any stored codes or anything hiding in there that might pop up and turn into a hard fault while I'm driving. I know this seems a bit over the top, and so maybe it is, but again, I don't want to be stuck on the side of the road waiting for a flatbed or a larger truck to come tow this big truck. So I connect up, nice and simple, reconnect to my vehicle. It's going to read all the modules and it's going to tell me what's going on. Let's see, I've got a invalid data received from anti-lock brakes. So far, everything is working. My guess is that this probably happened when I was disconnecting connectors in the back.
Just ignore it.
In the body module, I have right front enhanced exterior lighting. I knew about this fault. All the research that I've done online, this fault is usually associated with your headlight not working because the LED driver may have failed. I followed all the diagnostic tips that I could find and everything still works. So I'm going to ignore it for now, even though it sets as a hard fault. Other than these two, I don't have anything else stored. So let's see, I'll clear the code from the anti-lock brakes. And then should anything happen while I'm on my road trip, at the very least, I'll have the scan tool to connect to the truck and see what's going on rather than being totally lost while I'm out there. So now that we know what we're going to do with the truck as far as prep and making sure that the truck is in good shape, here's what I bring with me in the truck. Now, I will caveat this that if we're traveling in the wintertime, I bring a whole separate, or I guess in addition to all of this, I bring a whole bunch of other stuff as well. You can take a look at this video up over here. That was my winter prep and tire chain or snow chain prep, at least for my truck. So here's what I bring in the truck with me. I bring my laptop. This is just a 13-year-old MacBook Air that I'm running Windows on so that I can run different scan tool operations with. You have to have binoculars because, well, you're traveling with kids and they want to see things. Flashlight, because, well, you want to have a flashlight. Something to charge said flashlight, and my lithium jump pack. I have had to use this before. It did work on my truck. This is a newer one. My old one died, so I replaced it with the same one. It also doubles as a charging port with all the little USBs inside if something that takes a USB cord needs to be charged. I've got a couple different emergency supplies. So I've got my BMW hazard first aid kit from my car and another first aid supply. I always travel with a fire extinguisher. I know the joke is, you know, these trucks want to catch on fire. I believe I've taken care of all the fuel-related problems with this truck. Tire pressure gauge, gloves. I'm not a small target. I mean, I'm pretty easy to see, but still, if I'm going to be on the side of the road, I throw a vest on because people are dumb, and hopefully they see me. Because we moved here from the Northwest where it's wet all the time, I keep an umbrella. Umbrella also seconds as a shade or shelter from the sun, living in the desert. Some ponchos and a bunch of rags. So that's our interior stuff. In the bed, I bring an impact gun with a socket specific to my truck. I bring a torque wrench. This goes to the jack. A pump, another flashlight, spare battery. My very first mobile toolkit. This comes with me everywhere. It is missing a few things, but overall, solid. The truck does have a jack in it, but I like this one here. This is a 6,000 pound unit jack, power built. I don't know. I think I got it on Northern Tool, but it has a jack stand built into the bottle jack, which makes me feel more comfortable, and a giant base on the bottom. This also works out really well when I have my trailer with me because it has a much higher lift capacity than the little jack in the truck. In the back, I have my fuel treatment, some wet wipes, and some rags. I always get that stuff on me. Some oil, a spare 12 volt to 120 volt inverter, flares, funnel, slime, because stuff happens, gloves, again, stuff happens, so duct tape, tire patch kit. I've had this guy for a long time, but it's missing 2 plugs because I've had to use it. Along those same lines, I bring some fast dry cement, paper funnel, extra cement in case I open this and it's hard. It's not yet. Again, for those people on the road that aren't going to see you, I bring some triangle that you can throw together on the side of the road. Again, people just don't pay attention these days. I want to have the best chance possible. 5 gallons of potable water. Again, we're in the desert. It's blazing hot. Should anything whack happen, we have at minimum this 5 gallons plus all the other food and beverage that we bring. Same thing with that desert. I bring some shelter covers, reflective covers. We've got a pair for the 4 of us. These also double as covers for the floor. If you've got to crawl out underneath your vehicle and you don't want whatever pokey goodness, glass and debris on the side of the road is there, you'll have at least a small measure of cover. To store all of this, I keep it simple, and I just use these black totes from Costco, Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever the case, and I label them as to which box. This is my truck travel box. I have a BMW travel box. A little bit over-prepared, I'm sure, but I've also never been stuck on the road that I couldn't take care of. Could it happen? Absolutely. This is a very remedial set of tools, but the whole goal here is to get to know your vehicle, know that you think it's safe or think that it's safe, right? That you've looked it over to the best of your ability, and then get out there with a comfortable feeling, not a pit in your stomach that something could go wrong. So is this a lot of stuff to bring with you on a road trip? Yes. Fortunately, I have a ton of room in the back of my truck. This much weight isn't going to impact my mileage or anything like that, nor is it going to really impact my storage, keeping everything stored up in these black totes. In the long run, I do this because it makes me feel comfortable. Is it necessary? No. But with the experiences that I've had on the road, I have been broken down many times. I've never been broken down to the point, well, twice, that I needed a tow truck. Take that back, right? 2 times. Kind of sucks. So I hope that this was helpful. If it wasn't and you hated the video and you want to give me a thumbs down, hey, that's cool. Let me know why, though, in the comments so that I can improve. For everybody else, hit that thumbs up, subscribe, come back for another one. I'll see you next time.